Alright, everybody, I'm back. I lied. Just like my hero Moses, I lied. Um, I guess I'm procrastinating, I guess. I don't know. I have all these stories in my head I want to get out, but I just don't have any motivation. Um, it's like, what's the point? I don't know. I mean, first of all, before we go into that, the world isn't on my shoulders. It's not up to me to save the world. Not that I ever wanted to save the world, but the more that I learn about all the genocide and murder and lies and theft, and I mean, it can get oppressive. Um, but it's more about respect. It's like I want to create stories with other people, but shit, man. It's like we're poisoning our children and like doing nothing about it. I really get this phrase, God will long suffer the unrighteous. That's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm just like, shit, I'm just gonna procrastinate. Um, anyways, no, I am having fun with this book. This guy's a pretty good writer. Whether you agree with his stuff or not, or my interpretation of. Um, bum, 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 bum. I mean, it's like I do believe in some of this stuff. Maybe not all of it, but the wholeness stuff. I like the wholeness stuff, and I don't know. I just don't feel whole. I mean, everybody's off busy being stupid. Busy, busy people in this world. Um. Anyways, I'm whining right now. Let's continue with this book of Ezra. Um. Yeah. No. But I definitely thought that last part about the saved stuff. Like, I'm not saying the Torah doesn't have anything on salvation. It just, in that part where they're talking about the saved, they're very clearly talking about the, because they're talking about prophecy, and they're very clearly talking about the people who are after this time of righteousness are going to be living just much better lives than the toils and the sufferers who have to live the curse of Adam. And I think that's what's going on after this, his prophesied future time where righteousness will just abound. Um, the people after this time are just going to be living just much happier lives. Unlike the people who just wake up every morning, gotta go to work. These are the unsaved people, and so this is what they're talking about in the text. Like, um, very clear, very clear. It has nothing to do with our modern day philosophical and theological ideas of salvation. Now maybe it does. I think some of these texts may have double or triple meanings. But on the surface, it's definitely talking about the people, because again they're talking about prophecy, and so they're not talking about salvation. Um, like we would talk about nowadays. And so therefore the people who aren't saved, and that was the interesting thing to me, the people who aren't saved are just as loved by God as the people who are saved. Right? Because it's all about the heart. If you have love in your heart, you win. Because God is Yahweh is a God of love, and that's where you find success. Not in this materialistic Phoenician world, which the writers and this author is against. Anyways. If I have found favor in thy sight, show further to me, thy servant, whether on the day of judgment the righteous will be able to intercede for the ungodly, or to entreat the Most High for them, fathers for sons, or sons for parents, brothers for brothers, relatives for their kinsmen, or friends for those who are most dear. Okay, so first of all, this question is really rooted in this Phoenician idea of family, right? The family is everything, but that's not how it is in Yahweh. If you have a blood DNA family member who does not love and who does not love justice, if you have a blood DNA family member who is a murderer or a liar or a narcissistic or this or whatever, then they are not your family, right? So, but this is the Ezra that does not have wisdom who is talking. Right, and so the Ezra who's writing this knows the answer to this question. He answered me and said, since you have found favor in my sight, I will show you this also. The day of judgment is decisive. I mean, this favor in thy sight thing, I just see as this is an intimate God. This is a God that wants to know you. No one... Neither the high priest nor the rabbi should intercede between you and God. It's only if you're a stupid idiot. This is an intimate God. The day of judgment, and again, this question also goes into prophecy, right? So he's talking about future times. And one thing I like about this text, I saw this in another text of the Bible, and in this other text of the Bible, this author was he was declaring the law for the future folk, right? So you look at Moses, and Moses had his conversation with God, and you have Moses' law, right? But each writer of the Torah had their own conversation with God, and it's not that God changes; it's that the conversation changes. But this guy right here, he's what I see him doing right now is he's like, this is a prophet, right? This is a real prophet right now, and he's doing real prophecy. And so he's talking about how should the people of the future judge, right? In this future time where the righteous, go out there. See, this is one of the reasons that, what I'm saying would be very controversial if anybody ever cared. But at the same time, when I said God, for these Torah writers, God gives jurisdiction to the good man. But there's this distinction that's constantly made because there's so many good men who are not wise, and therefore they hide this in the text because they don't want everybody out there to think they have jurisdiction, because you can have a bunch of idiots doing a bunch of idiot justice. And so this guy is, this is a legal question right here, right? This is a very legal question. On this day of judgment, when the righteous actually start to act righteous, instead of like, talking righteous. Can a father intercede for their son or a brother for their brother? So that's the question. Again, this question is again, it's all about all these questions so far have been about prophecy, about this future time of supposed righteousness that this guy talks about. Okay, the day of judgment is decisive and displays to all the seal of truth. Just as now a father does not send his son, nor a son his father, or a master his servant, or a friend his dearest friend, to be ill or sleep or eat or be healed in his stead, so no one should ever pray for another on that day. Neither shall any one lay a burden on another, for then every one shall bear his own righteousness and unrighteousness. Right, so this is, in this day when all truth is revealed, he's saying that there's no intercession that's possible. Everybody, it's like he's prophesying a day where all truth shall be revealed. Right. To me, when you just look at simple human behavior, and you look at this idea of all truth shall be revealed, when you look at this idea of simple human behavior, you see what we would nowadays call toxic people. People who are control freaks, people who are narcissistic, people who are aggressive. These people, what do? They always plot and they plan and they ambush. These toxic people will never give you a fair fight. They're going to plot. They're going to have their secrets, and they're going to plot, and they're going to plan. And, shit, what am I talking about right now? Let's see. So, but that's just the thing. Everybody puts on a face, right? A murderer will put on a face of justice and love. Someone who's a control freak will put on a face of love. A narcissist usually is driven by their narcissism with this idea to try to save the world. Right? The narcissist is saving the world from evil. And so, again, what I see him talking about right now is just simple, I grew up in the 90s, and there was this thing called fronting. Like, don't front. Don't put on a false face, right? And it's like people are not going to be able to front anymore when the truth comes out. Right, because when you lie to somebody, you're trying to control their will. You're trying to give them false information for their will to act upon. And so the liar is a controller, right? They're trying to manipulate and control. So I think he's just simply talking like. There's a lot going on here, but if you have this day where all truth shall be revealed, then people aren't going to be able to hide behind their lies anymore. They're not going to be able to hide behind their lies anymore. And on that day, that would be a separation of the people, because once truth becomes revealed at this future time, then these toxic folk, these unrighteous folk, are not going to be able to hide behind their lies and their false faces. And basically what's being said here is that once the truth becomes revealed, the brother is not going to want to intercede for his brother, right? The father is not going to want to intercede for their son, right? Because they're going to be righteous against their sons. They're going to be righteous against their brothers. They're going to be like, what? What did you do? What did you do? That I didn't raise you that way. Or I didn't know that you were like this, brother. And so I think that's what's being said right here. God is saying that, once truth becomes revealed, that's when the blood and the DNA dissolve. I answered and said, how then do we find that first Abraham prayed for the people of Sodom, and Moses for our fathers who sinned in the desert, and Joshua for after him for Israel in the days of Achan, and Samuel in the days of Saul, and David for the plague, and Solomon for those in sanctuary, and Elijah for those who received the rain. That's it, the Elijah. Yeah, I want to get into Elijah at some point. He's pretty funny. And for one who was dead, and that he might live. Right? One who is dead that he might live, right? This is the Phoenician ways are ways of the dead. And the ways of Yahweh are the ways of life. This is just simple science and sociology. And Hezekiah for the people in the days of Sennacherib. And many others prayed for many. If therefore the righteous have prayed for the ungodly now, when corruption has increased and unrighteousness has multiplied, why will it not be so then as well? He answered me and said, this present world is not the end. The full glory does not abide in it. Therefore those who were strong prayed for the weak. But the day of judgment will be the end of this age and the beginning of the immortal age to come, in which corruption has passed away, sinful indulgence has come to an end, unbelief has been cut off, and righteousness has increased, and truth has appeared. Therefore no one will then be able to have mercy on him who has been condemned in judgment, or to harm him who is victorious. Okay, so I like this. This is, again, talking about a lot of legal stuff, right? And at the end here we have, or to harm him who is victorious, right? Or to harm him who is victorious. That, I think, is very decisive, because if you try to get justice against a toxic person, they're going to start to accuse you of being the evil one. Right. And so, one real world example would be Billy the Kid. Here in New Mexico, you had, a bunch of aristocratic landowners who were fucking around with justice. And this Billy the Kid, he had his boss was killed, this beloved English guy. And he was like, fuck this. They murdered him. They're stealing his land. And he said, fuck this, and he went on this crusade of justice. And yet, if you go on a crusade of justice up against, an impenetrable army of unrighteous, then you're going to lose, right? Because nobody else is righteous besides you. You're the only one who's righteous. And so that's what he's talking about right now. If you're living in a very corrupt place and you fight for justice, well, those corrupt people are going to start to accuse you. But whether or not, see, that's right here, he's victorious, right? So someone like Billy the Kid, whether or not he died, some people say he didn't, but whether or not let's say he did die, he's victorious. Right? This is a different idea of failure and success. right? The righteous person, whether they die or live in their fight for righteousness, will always be victorious according to this line, I think. According to this author. But I think that's definitely what's going on in that last line. And therefore, no one will then be able to have mercy on him who has been condemned in judgment. And so, that's the thing. Like, if you catch some people in the act, then they're going to start to cry, and they're going to start to act the victim, even though they're the ones who hurt someone else. One of the classic examples would be the Greeks crying in front of the Romans. These Greeks are guilty of lying, they're guilty of duplicity, they're guilty of bad law, they're guilty of greed, they're guilty of just nasty behavior towards their fellow human beings. But then they get in front of the Roman Senate and they just start crying. And the Romans have pity on them. Oh, look at these poor, murderous, prideful Greeks who have no respect for decency and law, right? And so, that's what. See, he's talking about human behavior, because this is what happens when someone who is caught red-handed, they start to cry. But that's what he's saying right here. He's saying, hey, no, no one's going to have pity or mercy for someone who is guilty in the future days. If you're guilty, it doesn't matter if it's your brother. Like, if your brother went around committing murder, then you're gonna be like, fuck that guy. I didn't know my brother did shit like that. And you're gonna be like, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. And so this is a different idea of family that's happening right here, right? Family is something of the heart, not of the blood or of the DNA or of the dynasty, right? The Phoenician dynasty. I answered and said, "This is my first and last word, that it would have been better if the earth had not produced Adam, or else, when it had produced him, had restrained him from sinning. For what good is it to all that they live in sorrow now and expect punishment after death? O Adam, what have you done? For though it was you who sinned, the fall was not yours alone, but ours also, who are your descendants. For what good is it to us if an eternal age has been promised to us, but we have done deeds that bring death? And what good is it that an everlasting hope has been promised to us, but we have miserably failed?" Right, again, this guy's constantly asking about this prophecy, and it's like he's living in a day where the good people have to suffer. Or that safe and healthful habitations have been reserved for us, that we have lived wickedly. Or that the glory or the Most High will defend those who have led a pure life, but we have walked in the most wicked ways. Or that a paradise shall be revealed, whose fruit remains unspoiled, and in which are abundance and healing, but we shall not enter it, because we have lived in unseemly places. Or that the faces of those who practice self-control shall shine more than the stars, but our faces shall be blacker than darkness. For while we lived and committed iniquity, we did not consider what we should suffer after death. Basically, again, he's focused again on this prophecy of his, that there's going to be this future day where you're going to have the righteous rise up, and you're going to have righteousness and justice. And he's like, how fair is that? How fair is that these people get these people after this revolution get to um, enjoy the benefits of a just society, while they're having to suffer under an unjust society. I mean, are these people in the future better than the people of the past? I mean, that's, why do they get to live in this better life here on earth than these unrighteous? He answered and said, "This is the meaning of the contest which every man who is born on earth shall wage, that if he is defeated, he shall suffer what you have said, but if he is victorious, shall receive what I have said. For this is the way of which Moses, while he was alive, spoke to the people, saying, 'Choose for yourself life, that you may live.' But they did not believe him, and the prophets after him, and even myself who have spoken to them. Therefore there shall not be grief at their destruction, so much as joy over those to whom salvation is assured." That if he is defeated, he shall suffer what you have said. But if he is victorious, he shall receive what I have said. Right? So, but what is this victory or defeat that he's talking about? Well, it's choosing life, right? Rather than this Phoenician total sacrifice. And they're capable of doing it in their day. But I mean, basically, this is all about this guy right here. He believes in this in the rabbis, and he doesn't think the rabbis are doing their job. Because it's about life. But again, the way that God is talking about the people who were defeated. Again, this doesn't have anything to do with modern day ideas of salvation, and I'm not saying that salvation is not present in the Bible. It's just that these ideas of salvation here in this book have nothing to do with our ideas of salvation. Here in this book, salvation means living a more full life, living this holy life. Like if you just put down your toil and suffering instruments every now and then, and just rest up or spend time with family or spend time with friends, then you will succeed, right? Holiness, that's where it's at, according to this writer. But at the same time, if you live a more holy life in a world that's controlled by Phoenicians, you're going to be more poor, right? It's only if you're going to succeed in this life of total sacrifice, if you sacrifice yourself and you sacrifice your holiness. If you sacrifice your children and your wife or your husband. Nope. All right. But yeah, you know what? I'm running out of time right now. And this part has been very easy to decipher. The part where the angel is speaking, that's a bit more difficult. um, but I mean, what do you guys think? Um, to me, though, this I don't know. This has been pretty clear. Choose for yourself life that you may live. Right. It's all about following your spirit. My spirit compels me to rest, or my spirit compels me to spend time with my children, or my spirit compels me to work, or whatever. Um, yeah, no, it's about living that more whole life, and this is totally about sociology.